Monster City Madhouse, a year-round online store full of Halloween and classic horror shirts, with an emphasis on the vintage look. Use code SAVE10 for 10% off your order. MonsterCityMadhouse.com. Free shipping and financing's available. Welcome back to Southern Ghost Stories. I am the American Hauntotorian, Alan Sircy. I'm glad you guys are with me. This is going to be a fun show today. First, there's lots of stuff going on, lots of events coming up. I'm going to be at the Knoxville Book Festival. I think it's May 1st. And then I'll be at Spawn of Scarefest in June 5th that weekend. So a lot of you guys at Horror Hound, that was a whole lot of fun up in Cincinnati. But yeah, I do events all over the country. I will be Spawn of Scarefest, which is the spinoff of Scarefest, which is in Lexington, Kentucky in October. It's kind of fun. Like Horror Hound kind of, I guess, set the stage for people doing the horror conventions, and they do one in September as well as March, and I guess Scarefest is kind of doing the same thing. So yeah, I'll be at the Scarefest shows in June, in Lexington, also in October. So it's a lot of fun. You can always catch up with me, tell some spooky stories, get some books. I'll be doing some panels, I believe, at those shows. Also, I'll be at the Louisville Horror Con. That's coming up next month. I think May 16th is the date on that. I don't have my dates in front of me. Probably should. But yeah, I've got a lot of events coming up in Kentucky. I'm all over the place. But anyway, so welcome back to the show. This is where we chase the ghosts of the South, old legends, eerie spots, and the stories that refuse to stay buried. So today, we're going to dig deep into some old folklore when it pertains to witches. You guys know I have the book, Fear and Folklore, American Witches. You know, there are witch trials, man. South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Tennessee had one. I mean, it wasn't just Salem. You know, Salem's kind of known for the witch trials, and it's called the Witch City. But, I mean, back then, you know, it's a lot of, they were very religious society back then, and they thought, you know, if something's going on, something bad, it's from the devil, and there's a witch. So anyway, we're going to dig into that today. And so I guess we'll get into it. Just 45 minutes north of Jackson, Mississippi, you'll find Yazoo City. And it's home to one of the state's most infamous curses. And farther along the historic Natchez Trace Parkway, at milepost 233.2, there's a pull-off called Witch Dance that still gives locals the willies. And these aren't your typical ghost stories. One involves a vengeful witch who supposedly torched an entire town from beyond the grave. And the other, it's a patch of earth where nothing grows, ever, because witches supposedly dance there under the moon. So we'll unpack the legends, the real history, the creepy details, and why people still visit these spots today. So, if y'all ready, we'll get started. Dim the light, grab a sweet tea, let's step into the shadows. Yazoo City, Mississippi. It's a small town, big river, bigger stories. The legend starts way back, probably in the late 1800s, though no one really knows the exact year. A mean, ugly old woman lived alone in a shack right on the banks of the Yazoo River. Folks called her a witch. Rumors swirled. She'd lure lonely fishermen off the water with a promise of food or just some company. She'd drag them inside. She'd torture them. Maybe even kill them. Yeah, but no bodies ever turned up. But the disappearances, there's a bunch of them. Well, then, one late afternoon, 1884, May 25th, to be precise, a local boy named Joe Bob Duggett was floating his raft down the river. He hears this ungodly moan from the witch's house. Curious, or brave, maybe even stupid, he ties up, peeks through the window, and he sees unbridled horror. Two dead men stretched out on the floor, skeletons dangling from the ceiling like decorations. The old woman, caked in dirt and cockleburrs, dressed in black rags, stands over them, waving her arms, chanting spells, her eyes just wild. Joe Bob bolts back to town He tells the sheriff what he saw. A posse formed. They stormed the house. But the witch is gone. She fled into the swamps. They chased her through the muck, and she got stuck in quicksand and started sinking slow. The sheriff yelled, "Stop in the name of the law." She turned, her face was twisted, and with her last breath, she cursed the town. In 20 years, I will return and burn this town to the ground. She sinks completely. They fish out what they can, and they bury her in Glenwood Cemetery, the public graveyard in the historic section of town. To keep her down, they wrap the graves in heavy iron chains, linking posts around it like a cage. Folks figured that's the end of the story. No name on the stone, just TW. Maybe it stands for The Witch. Time passes. People forget. Until exactly 20 years later. May 25th, 1904. A windy morning, no storm forecast. A spark. Some say in a young woman's parlor while she prepared for her wedding. It ignited. Flames roared through Main Street, then Mound Street. Over 300 buildings gone. 200 plus homes, almost the entire business district. The Episcopal Church burned, but the library across the street was spared. Yazoo City was in ashes. The next day, shaken residents headed to Glenwood Cemetery. The chains around the witches' graves had been broken clean in two. Legend says she broke free, fulfilled her curse, and then she returned to her plot. Well, the story exploded thanks to a book in 1971 written by Willie Morris. It's called Good Old Boy. He grew up about hearing the stories, and he wove it into the book. But locals swear the grave and broken chains were there long before the book came out. Today, you can still visit it. The plot's still chained. There's actually new ones there, probably. It's in the middle of the historic section. Some say the chains snap again before disasters, tornadoes, floods. Is it a coincidence? Or is it something darker? So what's real? What's going on? The fire of 1904, it happened. I mean, you can Google it. It's a historical fact. It started accidentally, likely at Herman Wise's home or somewhere there in town. It spread fast in the dry, windy conditions. It destroyed 324 buildings. Rebuilding took years. The town bounced back. And the witch, well, no solid records of a woman dying in quicksand in 1884. No sheriff's report of murder or a chase. The grave's owner was a woman per some old records, but no name ties to witchcraft. The original headstone is gone. Maybe just TW. The chains, I mean, they could have been added later for the legend, or it could have been something to stop grave robbing or vandalism. And the broken chains after the fire, it was reported by the folks who checked the day after. Some creepy timing. It's classic Southern folklore. A scary outsider, a curse that comes true, a grave that proves it. Whether she existed or not, the story stuck because the dates lined up perfectly. In a town rebuilt from ashes, people needed explanations, especially back then. And sometimes supernatural ones just, they feel right. So, let's head north. Way north. Near Houston, Mississippi, just south of Tupelo, which is the birthplace of Elvis Presley. Milepost 233.2 on the Natchez Trace Parkway, a simple pull-off with picnic tables, restroom, and a sign that reads, Witch Dance. And the Natchez Trace, it's ancient. It's an old trail used by Native Americans, Chickasaw, the Choctaw. Then the Kayentux, the boatmen from the Ohio River floating down to Natchez. Traders, outlaws. Andrew Jackson rode down the trail. It's full of ghosts. The Hart brothers' murders, buried treasure, headless riders, all kinds of weird, wild legends. But witch dance? Pure eerie. Legend says long ago, maybe colonial times, could be earlier, this clearing was a meeting spot for a coven of witches. Under full moons they gather, feast, dance in circles to gain power or cast spells. Wherever their bare feet touched the ground during these rituals, the grass, it withered instantly, scorched black, dead forever. Travelers on the trace noticed this barren patch, perfect circles of smooth, cracked earth, nothing growing, not grass, not weeds, not even any plants. People avoided them. They feared it was a curse or some kind of bad luck. Some said stepping in one of these circles on a full moon would summon a shrieker, a banshee-like spirit that follows you home, wailing doom. To this day, people claim the circles are still there, distinct, round, barren spots in the clearing. The site's now a bike campground and trailhead for the 18-mile Witch Dance horse trail in the Tombigbee National Forest. But locals, they still feel kind of leery about it. Most avoid it at night. Others dare friends to sleep in the circles. And so, really, what's going on? We got to try to debunk what we can here, right? The barren circles exist, or did. Reports verify if they're as visible now. Early 1800s journals mentioned them. Geologists and scientists poked around. Soil tests in the 1950s and 70s showed normal composition. No weird acidity. No salt licks. No chemicals. Ground-penetrating radar was brought in, and it found nothing unusual. Some blame old Native American sites, the Bynum Mountains nearby, maybe animal activity, or some kind of erosion pattern that just makes the perfect circles. Who knows? But the spots persist in local lore. The National Park Service sign acknowledges the folklore there on the site. Local legend has it that the places that their feet touched in their ceremonies caused the grass to wither away and never grow again. No proof of actual witches, no records of covens or rituals. Probably grew from native stories, settler superstitions, and the Trace's dark reputation, with outlaws and such. Still, on a quiet night, standing in that clearing, it's easy to imagine moonlight, shadows dancing, and grass dying underfoot. 2 spots, 2 legends, a cursed grave in Yazoo City that broke free to burn a town, and eternal barren circles where witches supposedly dance. Both blend real history, the 1904 fire, the ancient Natchez Trace, with the supernatural Mississippi folklore thrives on. They just outsiders who curse the grave, places marked forever by evil. And if you're a road trip in the Trace, stop at milepost 233.2, and daytime's probably the best time to do it. In Yazoo City, you can visit Glenwood Cemetery, and you can see the chain grave for yourself. Just don't go rattling those chains after midnight. So, I was talking to someone the other day, and I mentioned earlier that Tennessee had a witch trial, witch story. So, this is my neck of the woods. I grew up in Middle Tennessee. So, Fentress County, which is, I guess, going towards Knoxville, it's a little east of Nashville where I grew up. So, the story there, our witch trial, there's a guy named Old Man Stout. And in Fentress County, back in the early 1800s, he didn't go to the town square. He didn't go to the general store. He didn't go sit there and talk. He didn't mingle with the other residents. So he's kind of deemed as a kooky outsider. Well, Old Man Stout, what he did was, I told you he didn't go mingle with the others. He would stay in his cabin, and he'd read his collection of books, just read books all day long. And so I told you, the rep of being just a kooky old man, the kids there in town, they would come to his window at night and, they'd climb up and peek in and watch him read by firelight. Well, something happened one night, and one of those kids who went to the cabin to watch Old Man Stout read, she got really, really sick. So she goes home, they learn where she's been. The dad is convinced Old Man Stout, he's cast a spell and he's made his daughter sick. So this guy, he goes and he gets a posse, he gets a group of his friends. They go out there in the woods to Old Man Stout's cabin. They kick the door in. There's a brief scuffle. He's outnumbered. They drag the old man out, and they march him to the town square. They take him to the courthouse. They demand a trial. This guy's a witch. Obviously, he's been casting spells, and he made this young girl sick there in town. So they lock him up, and eventually a magistrate agrees to the hearing. So they put him on trial, and the magistrate, he knows this is just silly. It's ridiculous. Old Man Stout's not a witch. He's just, a strange old man that likes to read. So they bring him on trial, and the magistrate clears him of the charge of being a witch. So after that, they take him back home. Old Man Stout goes back to the courthouse a few days later and files charges against the guys, the posse who roughed him up. And he won a small settlement. So after that, they left Old Man Stout alone. They wouldn't go out there and mess with the old man reading his books, the old witch out there in the woods. But they say that occasionally he would come to town, and he would appear before a door and then turn into a cloud of smoke and slip through the keyhole and appear on the other side. So who knows what the real story is? I kind of tend to think that, because of his reputation of being a witch, the story's gotten embellished. He wasn't turning into a cloud of smoke and sliding through a keyhole and reforming on the other side. But still, it's a fun story. And the witch trials, it was wild time to be alive. I mean, society, they were a primitive group. They were very religious. There's a story in Ohio I got really tickled at. There was same thing. There's a lady, she done something. She was brought in on charges of being a witch. And like in Tennessee, the judge, it's all silly. He's not going to go for it. But there's such clamor in the community. You have to have this witch trial. Things are going on. So the judge, he holds the hearing and he says, look, here's what we're going to do. I want to bring in like a scale, a very large scale. So if this lady we're going to put on trial, here's what we're going to do. There's not going to be a formal hearing. We're going to put her on the scale. And on the other side, we're going to put a Bible. And if this lady is truly a witch, she will be weightless. When we place her on the scale, she won't sink. The scale won't move. But we'll put a Bible on the other side. The Bible will drop. The Bible has weight. The witch will not have weight. So they called in, hundreds of people from the town to come watch these proceedings. They put the old lady there on the scale, and immediately it dips. They put the Bible on the other side. It stays in the same spot. The Bible doesn't weigh as much as a lady, right? So right then the judge calls it okay. She's not guilty. She's not a witch. And that was the end of it. But it's just wild that there are witch trials all over the country, not just Salem. South Carolina had one, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia. Virginia had the first witch trial, if I recall correctly, back in the 1700s. So, yeah, I got a book, Fear and Folklore, American Witches, kind of talking about the history of the witch trial, how it kind of got started. I guess whether Virginia was, where the first one was, and kind of all the way through up until the last one. But also there's stories about people who believed they were hexed by a witch and went out to find the witch to break the spell. And that's a whole lot of fun. People going out to people, finding them there in their cabin and shooting them in cold blood, thinking they were cursed. Then life doesn't improve. But anyway, yeah, Fear and Folklore, American Witches, it's a fun book. Lots of weird, wild tales. So you guys know I'm kind of like a default historian. I love just weird, wild stuff. I've been working on another book for the Fear and Folklore series. It comes out later this year. It's Fear and Folklore Vampires. And I'll get into that more later on this summer, but that's, vampires were a thing too. I mean, they were yeah. I could talk all day about this, but yeah, the tuberculosis, people are dying from that, and it stemmed off, and vampires are killing our family. But I'll tell some more stories about that here in a few months. But the next book to drop is April 30th, Pistols, Red River, Andrew Jackson Dillon story, or something fun about dudes dressing up in suits and going out in the field and shooting each other. So, but yeah, Pistols, Red River, April 30th. There's actually 2 duels in the book. Makes it really fun. But I'll be doing a bunch of media appearances for that, and I'll have books at the events coming up in the spring and the summer. And the Fear and Folklore Vampire comes out. I also got something else I'm working on. It comes out later in October, but we'll get into that more on. I'm dropping 3 books this year, maybe 4, probably 3. Still trying to figure all that out. But yeah, thanks for sticking with me. And keep checking back. Follow us on Facebook, Southern Ghost Stories. You can find us there. Also Instagram. You can send me some questions, and I'll try to answer those coming up, the next coming episodes. I did a Q&A, I guess 3 or 4 weeks ago. That was a lot of fun. You guys had some really good questions. I love going back and forth with you guys. So also leave a review for the show. If you find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just wherever. Leave a review. Those help out a whole lot. And I always appreciate you guys doing that. So, yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Check out the exclusive shirts from Monster City Madhouse, Gravestone, Rocktober, and Val Halloween. All that and much more at MonsterCityMadhouse.com.